Gem International is a new diamond explorer in the richest diamond-producing country in Africa, located next to the fourth largest producing diamond mine in the world. International Spotlight is on an 1109-carat diamond recently discovered in Africa by a fellow Canadian junior with a proven operator and finance team. Gem International trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol GI. Visit us at gemdiamondmining.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Sean Brodrick, Natural Resource Specialist at the Oxford Club. His website, energyandresourcesdigest.com. Welcome back to the show, Sean.
Thanks for having me on.
And I'm always happy I can say that without slurring or screwing up. A little bit of alliteration. Sean, the U.S. dollar has been on a tear of late. How long is this going to continue?
Well, it may be ending soon. I mean, we won't really know until the week is done, but we're seeing some bearish action in the U.S. dollar. This is primarily with it's not so much dollar weakness as strength in Europe. I mean, we're seeing strength in the British pound because their prime minister made some supportive statements, and strength in the euro. And so that's kind of, taken away some of the fuel for the U.S. dollar, which, as you said, has been on an incredible tear. Right before the election, it was trading at 97. Now it's over 101, even with a pullback today. That is a major move in a currency. That's huge. And so you'd expect some kind of pullback anyway. We just may be seeing the trigger because of what's happening in Europe and like that kind of thing. But there needs to be a rest. Is the rest out of something bigger? I'd expect the U.S. dollar to go down and test support right under 99. That's the U.S. dollar index, which in itself is not a bad move, actually, but if it does that, then some trades that are based on this will have to be unwound. And one thing that's been happening recently, especially since the election, is that we've seen funds run out of gold and, in fact, short gold. So if we see the dollar turn around, then those short gold positions will have to be unwound. And so that could give gold a nice little Santa Claus visit, a nice little Christmas present. Absolutely, that kind of thing could happen. So that's something I would keep my eyes peeled for. What I would want to see is how the U.S. dollar ends the week. If this is one day's weakness and it continues on going higher, then everything I said is not going to happen. But if we get a bearish end to the U.S. dollar this week, and it's a trade shortened week, remember, because of U.S. Thanksgiving. I know that you folks up in Canada already got that mess out of the way in October, but because of that, we will have to see how the U.S. dollar ends the week, and that could be a big signpost not only for currencies but also for precious metals as well.
Gold, after having a great spring and summer, seems to be out of favor. How long is this going to continue?
Well, again, it depends on the U.S. dollar. There are other things to bring into it. Now, we just saw gold hit a 5-month low. And so extremes are times when things like this like to reverse. And 5-month low is pretty extreme. But some other things that could come into the play is we're going to have Sharia gold roll out next week, which means there can be gold trading instruments that are Sharia compliant, so that if someone who is a strict Muslim wants to add gold to their account as insurance, there now will be instruments they can buy that actually comply with Sharia law. And many non-Muslims might think, well, that's not a big thing. It is a big thing because of so many Muslims being in the world and how many of them follow their religion strictly. Many Muslims don't have a bank account because they don't want to earn interest. I mean, if they're strict enough, of course, just like any religion, they run the spectrum. But this brings a whole bunch of them into the market. At the same time, we are seeing accelerating purchases by the usual cast of characters led by Russia. They are really buying a lot of gold, 1.3 million ounces in the last month. That's a lot. Some wild cards out there or I should say one wild card, is we're going to have to see what happens in India, where they've, for all intents and purposes, they seem to have outlawed large cash-denominated bills. I mean, you know, you can only use small change and thing, and what they're trying to do is they are trying to, you know, stop bribery, or at least put a crimp in bribery. But one thing people might do, of course, there's no way to know right now. We have to wait and see what happens. One thing people might do is start bribing with precious metals, because that can be carried and transported pretty easily. So I would like to see what happens there. That's a wild card in the mix. And one bearish thing that's going on, but it's often wrong, so keep this in mind, is that we are seeing funds. I mean, as I said, they just exited gold and silver positions hugely. And so they may have done that at the wrong time. They may have cause to regret. Then again, if gold keeps going down, then they're going to keep exiting in a big way, and they'll also add new short positions. So the big funds will emphasize whatever move is really taking place. So I would actually look for things like what's going on with the central banks like Russia, what's going on in places like India, which is a brand new experiment, what's going on with like Sharia gold. That can really influence what's going on with gold into the end of the year for sure.
Has China continued their gold buying spree of the last 5 years?
No.
No.
This is the thing. I mean, at least not on the consumer level. On the central bank level, they certainly have. Yes, very nice. But the problem is the Chinese consumer seems to have slowed down. Now that can change, and there have been anecdotal stories. We haven't seen it in the monthly reports yet because they aren't out yet. But there have been anecdotal reports that with the recent price weakness in gold, the Chinese consumers have stepped in again because they are price sensitive more than just about anybody else. And so maybe they're buying. Again, we'll have to see what really happens, because we just got that real price weakness this month, or at least I should say the latest leg of price weakness. Gold has been under pressure since July. It's a long time, but this latest big decline came this month, and so we'll have to see if that gave the Chinese reason to step up there.
Are people a little off gold as well, with the stock markets again nearing record highs or hitting record highs?
Yeah, well, that is another factor. Is people think that they can really make money somewhere else in the stocks, they will go there. And also we've seen rising interest rates. I think I've talked to you and your listeners before about the fact that we had negative interest rates for so long. You know, that was lifting a weight off the price of gold. Now we're seeing negative interest rates go away, not completely, but to a certain extent around the world. And so that means that gold doesn't quite have the freedom that it had before, because now people can make money in at least some bonds, or at least a little money. Still not very good over there. So I'm not saying that it's like really bad news for gold, but things have changed a little bit, and you have to take that into account.
Are we still expecting some kind of major market correction?
Many people are, but you can go broke waiting for the market to correct, right? I mean, when you look at it, there are good reasons for the market to go higher. One is that the new Trump administration and the Republicans in Congress are promising lower capital gains and like that kind of thing. So maybe that's being priced in. You know, that's a good reason for the market to go higher. The other is they're talking about some kind of tax holiday for all the cash that U.S. corporations have stashed offshore, something like $2.5 trillion. And if they bring some of it back, then one thing they might do, right, is continue what they have been doing. And what they have been doing is they've been buying back their own stock, hand over fist. And so that could push stock prices much higher, is if we get that tax holiday on the overseas cash and it comes back and it buys the stocks of those companies that are already buying their own stocks. So I can see good reason for people to invest in the stock market. I'm invested in the stock market. You know, I mean, and it does look to be breaking out of a range that held it in range for a long time. When a stock or a market ranges for quite some time, that kind of compression forms what I call an energy field, right? And so it just gathers up energy, and that can make the next move that comes at the end of a long energy field quite explosive. And so, yeah, we could see things head higher. The thing is it heading higher on hopes or heading higher on what's really going to happen? Now, I have to say, I don't think there's much to stop Mr. Trump from doing whatever he wants in office. He has a Republican Congress. I think he can pass whatever laws he wants. We just have to wonder where his focus will actually be, where Mike Pence's focus will actually be, because Mike Pence is the vice president, and we know from an offer that Mr. Trump made to a previous potential vice president is that the vice president is going to be charged of the domestic policy, and Mr. Trump is going to focus on making America great again, whatever that is. So I think that we'll see a very business-friendly environment in the White House, and I think some of that's being priced into the stock market right now. But are there things that could send to lower? There certainly are. One is the strong dollar that we just talked about, right? Because I think it's for every 10% move higher in the U.S. dollar, it shaves $3 off of S&P 500 earnings. There's some kind of ratio like that was worked out a while ago. So this move we've had in the dollar will impact S&P 500 earnings. That doesn't mean stocks can't go higher, especially if overseas cash is coming back and buying up stocks. Yeah, stocks can go higher, but people have to understand there are risks as well as potential rewards in the stock market right now.
We'll have more with Sean Brodrick right after the break.
I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sean Brodrick. Sean, with 4 more states legalizing marijuana, including the monstrous one, California, pot stock seemed to be the new hot topic.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is a trend that's been sweeping over America anyway. More and more people are in favor of outright legalization. It's a good majority now. And so, excuse me, so now it's like 72% of the country's population now lives in a place where there's some form of like legalization. So that's quite huge. And so you can invest in marijuana stocks, which is a good way to do it, but certainly buy the pullbacks, because those things, man, do they get full of air, and they take off much higher than they'll ever see profits in the next 5 years. One other thing you can look at would be home improvement stores, as well as home and garden stocks, that kind of thing. And in fact, I think Home Depot had disappointing earnings, so this might be a time to pick it up, because if people do start farming pot at home, right, what are they going to do? They're going to head down to their local hardware store, and they're going to pick up stuff to do it with. So that might not be a bad way to play it, frankly. But it's still early stages, very early days. I mean, one thing we have to remember is the national government does not recognize marijuana legalization. And in fact, the new U.S. Attorney General is very anti-marijuana. So things could change back quite a bit. If they want to start picking fights all over the place, they can do it, and they have nearly unlimited resources. You have to remember that. They might take the point of view that what's done is done, and states' rights and all the stuff that they yammer about anyway. Well, maybe it applies to this, and so things can move on. But it's an incredibly volatile market. So I might wait for some bad news before investing. I'm not invested in this market right now, as a matter of fact. Just waiting to see how it goes, because there are so many variables. Wait and see what happens when the new Attorney General is sworn in, because he is anti-marijuana. What will he do? That said, if you have the appetite for risk, just a whiff of bad news could really take some air out of some of these stocks, and that might be a time when you want to buy them.
Well, Canada plans to legalize recreational marijuana sometime next year. Ironically, though, so you have Alaska, Washington State, Oregon, California, all with legal pot. Canada will have legal pot eventually. But if you cross that border between British Columbia and Washington State, you can still get nailed and go to jail.
Are they still putting people in jail for it, or is it just a fine and a stern talking to?
Well, it really depends on which judge you show up before.
I guess so. But, I mean, the trend seems to be toward legalization. I don't think you should put people in jail for this. It's just crazy to ruin people's lives over this. I mean, smoking marijuana is really for people who are bored, frankly. So if your life is boring, I mean, you work at McDonald's or something, hey, maybe it's a good idea to do. I don't know. So I just think that people have to make their own choices in life. And if your choice is to smoke marijuana, then go ahead and do it. There is a business opportunity here. I can tell you who hates it, and that's the Mexican cartels, right? Because they don't like this. They don't like this at all, because they were the suppliers of the illegal weed. Now they don't get to be anymore. So that is a good thing that way, because I'd like to see the Mexican cartels hurt. So more power there. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens when the new administration comes in the White House. Keep your eyes peeled. See if they take any marijuana action. If they do, then things will slow down. I don't think you can stop it, though.
Plus, governments, once they start collecting tax revenue on anything, are very reluctant to give it up.
Well, that's why they gave up prohibition back in the 1930s, was that they really needed to have some new forms of, revenue. And so they said, we used to make money on booze, let's do that again. So we know that many governments, at least here in the U.S., are really feeling the pinch. And they would like some money. And so, yeah, that could be one of the biggest deciding factors, I think, at least on a statewide level. And so we'll see how that goes.
And in some cases, they've said legalizing pot has reduced impaired driving, at least when it comes to alcohol. People stay at home and get stoned. I
guess, I don't actually believe studies on that one way or the other. You can make a study say whatever you want, right? I mean, that's what we found out in the last election, is there were studies all over the map. And, but common sense would say that if they're not hurting anyone, let them do it. And, hurting anyone other than themselves. There's also studies that say that, marijuana will make you grow breasts and stuff. Is that stuff true? Or was that put out by some researcher with an axe to grind? I don't know. But I do believe that it is people's individual choice, and they have to make it for themselves.
Well, most of the ads against marijuana legalization were paid for by the liquor industry.
Well, that's a fascinating thing, too. But in fact, yes, that's absolutely true, is because companies like Budweiser are scared to death that people will smoke pot rather than drink beer. Because pot isn't fattening, eh? It's hard to make a beer light enough to compete with marijuana. But some liquor companies are actually embracing the idea of change. Constellation Brands, which I think just spun off its Canadian subsidiary. So that probably trades on its own up there. But I know that the main group here in the U.S. is talking about what it might do to embrace the marijuana legalization trend and include marijuana in some of its drinks, for sales to adults, of course, and stuff like that. Constellation Brands is one of the recommendations that I have in one of my publications, so I should mention that. But I think that there is some real potential there, and those companies that can get ahead of this can do pretty well.
Well, yes, very potable pot. Why not?
Yeah, right, exactly.
And in fact, I've seen ads now for people where the ad's asking for investors, and they're already selling all kinds of soft drinks loaded with THC in California.
Are they really?
Yes.
Well, first of all, I don't drink soft drinks. Second of all, I'm not in California, so I'm behind the curve on this. I did not know about that. But yeah, I expect you can see more of that. I mean, there might be specialized brownie mixes, right? I mean, that seems like an obvious thing. Specialized brownie and also things for cookies and stuff that are made to mix with marijuana, because not everybody wants to smoke it. I don't blame them. Who wants to put hot ash in their lungs, for God's sakes?
Exactly.
So, yeah, I know if you use that vaping technology that the kids use, then it's not hot or else whatever. But still, I mean, I can see why people might want to eat it rather than not. And so there's probably an entire range of, like, edible products that have yet to be invented that could make someone a serious amount of money.
Well, of course, too, pot does give you the munchies, so if you have an edible product, you'll probably eat more of it.
Right. Invest in Taco Bell, right?
Sean, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thanks very much for having me on.
My guest has been Sean Brodrick, Natural Resource Specialist at the Oxford Club. His website, energyandresourcesdigest.com. You're listening to HowStreet.com radio. Find us at Talk Digital Net on Twitter. Our popular YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Questions for the show can be sent to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.